Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Dr. Rhonda Ross here with Take Another Look Tuesday. Another terrific Tuesday. Hoping that today is going well for you. So, going to give it a few minutes to let people log in to join us for our lunch broadcast. Sorry, I'm running a minute or two behind. So, we're just going to jump right in on today's lesson. Give you a few minutes to kind of check in and join us today. So I hope that the sun is shining in your world. A little cloudy outside today. You know what? Life can get a little cloudy. And when it does, we just want you to know that we here at A New View for You, we're praying for you, praying that the SON will cause the SUN to shine in your world. So we're looking forward to having a great lesson today. So it is that time of year, everybody. Guess what? A whole lot of graduations. I've seen a couple of people getting engaged, some marriages happening. Something about May, June, and July just brings so much celebration in the air. So I just want to say congratulations to everyone, to all of our high school graduates, to all of our college graduates. Congratulations to those who found love in all the right places, to those of us who may have been experiencing some not so pleasant events in our lives, we're praying for you as well. But do want to give a shout out and congratulations to those who are graduating and gotten engaged or even planning your marriages. I want to do a brief announcement for our Peninsula seniors, for those high school seniors who live on the peninsula, whether it's Williamsburg or Yorktown, Newport News, Hampton. We have something for you. So if you are a high school senior with a GPA of 2.5 to 2.9, I want to ask you to please either leave your name in a comment or hit me up in my inbox. I have something for you, and I would love to share it with you with all the details. So make sure you hit me up today. Peninsula seniors, and I'm sorry for my Southside friends. Sometimes you hit me and you wonder, are you eligible for it as well? But we're just right now working with the Peninsula, and we're hoping that maybe next year we can branch out to Southside as well. So if you're living on the Peninsula and you're a high school senior with a GPA of 2.5 to 2.9, please hit me up in my inbox or hit me up in the message in this broadcast because I've got something for you. Yes, so on my job, this time of the year, I'm still waiting for people to come in, but on my job, one of the things I do is I am an IoT specialist, an interactive learning tool specialist. Guess what, y'all? That's a title I made up for myself. But my job is to identify common everyday games to play with students that they're familiar with. But I have to determine the metacognitive value of the activity through the interpretation of the game process, the strategy, the rules, and the goal. Like, what's the point of the game and how do you win the game? And then I have to align metacognitive factors with the standards of learning outlined in the curriculum. So if, like, for example, we're playing Jenga, when we play Jenga, what we'll do is we'll put either a vocabulary strip on the block or we'll put a math equation strip on the block. So when the child pulls the block from Jenga, they either have to define the word, use it in a sentence, or they have to solve the equation that's identified on the block. And so the whole point of it is that the students then make a connection with the game and the standard that they're learning by journaling in their notebook. And one student wrote something so cool. She wrote, "Today I learned um, algebraic expressions through an everyday common game called Jenga." The whole point of it is the children have to take some type of ownership to their learning, and in a fun and unintimidating way. So in my research, as I was looking for different things, I discovered an old treasure that I used to love to play growing up in Brooklyn, New York. Oh my goodness. And to the point that if I finished my work fast in class, I would pull my little game out. If I had a few minutes, the teacher would give me, and she would give me a little section in the room where I could play my little game. And my favorite game was Jacks. Do y'all remember jacks, y'all? Those little metal things, and you toss them out, and you try to collect them when you throw the ball up, and you got to scoop them up. I loved playing jacks. And according to the Genius of Play organization, geniusofplay.com, jacks is a fast paced lesson in physics and math. I never knew that growing up. I never knew that while I was playing the game, but definitely it uses the skills of critical thinking because you've got to determine how high to toss that ball in the air that would give you enough time to grab up those jacks depending on where you are. So the other thing is you had to determine how forceful, how much velocity you needed to use when you threw your jacks out, depending on what round you were on. I had a friend and her name at the time was Katrina Teal, and she led me to the Lord. As a matter of fact, best friend ever. We are still friends to this day, and she had the smallest little hands, but that girl could scoop those jacks up. It was like amazing. And she knew how to throw them. So when she was on her onesies, she knew how to throw them out just because they had to be spread out. Because in jacks, if a foul is if you, number one, if you threw the ball up and caught it with your other hand, that's a foul and you're out. And the idea was to be the collector of most of the jacks. The other foul was if you threw the ball up and you went to grab, let's say, two jacks or grab three jacks, and you touched another jack without picking it up, that's a foul and you were out. And every time you fouled out, you couldn't go back when it was your turn again. You couldn't go back to where you left off. When you fouled out, you had to go all the way back to the beginning and start all over again. This young lady had a secret in her pocket, and there were no rules. It wasn't like you could go to Google and figure out the best strategy to figure out how to pick up the jacks without touching them. This girl just had an instinct secret in her head to know how hard to throw the jacks. When her numbers started getting higher, she threw it with less velocity so that they were more grouped together so that she could really grab five at a time, grab seven at a time. And generally, the game had 10 jacks. So ultimately, you had to get 10 all in your hand at one time and catch the ball with the same hand. It reminds me so much of, and as I thought about that game, because I'm thinking about instituting this game in my center, it reminded me about how life gets so out of control. You can really think that you got things going, you figured it out, you're finally at a place where you have some type of vibe going in your life. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? You know what time you're getting up in the morning, you've strategized your day, when you're having lunch, all of those kind of simplistic things. And then out of nowhere, sometimes I know for me, it feels like God has taken my life, picked it up in his big hand, shook them up like jacks, and just tossed it. And my life kind of goes where it would go. It's very, very frustrating. And that's what was happening to the people of God in Jeremiah 29:11. They had been scattered. They've been scattered. And we love Jeremiah 29. I know I do. I remember a very scattering time in my life, and I had never read Jeremiah 29:11. And sitting in my classroom, the word Jeremiah, the number 29, and the number 11 came to my head. And I read it, and it promised me that God knew the plans he had for my life. And it blessed me so much because it made me realize I don't have to stay in this forever. This is not going to be a lifelong sentence. God's got a plan. I'm getting out. and the devil's on the run and the devil's picking on me, and that's how I understood that scripture for the longest time. The issue was Jeremiah is telling the people that they will live in Babylon for at least 70 years, which means anything under 70, forget it. You got 70 years to put in. Therefore, they should settle down, build houses, marry, and even pray for the peace and prosperity for the city they found themselves in. For the city and I found one thing about the word of the Lord, it's very iconic. And when I see that word city, I think of the word situation, because sometimes I find myself in situations, and guess what? I'm going to be there for a minute. And I've got to learn, I've had to learn how to settle down, build, and pray. I had to learn how to settle down, build, get committed, and pray for the peace of God to be in that situation, because I'm looking at an issue of promise versus purpose. When we read Jeremiah 29, we see the promise of God, and the promise of God is there, no doubt. But I think we miss the promise and we skip over the purpose. Because the truth be told, the devil was not picking on them. It was God who scattered them. And he reveals that in Jeremiah 29:14. He said, and I will gather you from whence I have dispersed you. I scattered you. That was God's doing. Sometimes when things don't work so well in our lives, we're quick to say, the devil's picking on me, the devil's doing this, or the devil, and we blame the devil and we blame negativity, because it's hard for us to conceive that our loving, compassionate, understanding Father in heaven would dare put us in a position where, you know, something negative, he's not going to do us bad, he's not going to do us wrong, but we're missing the purpose. See, Jeremiah 29:11 gives the promise. I'm going to gather you. I know the plans I have for your life. I'm going to give you your heart's content. But Jeremiah 29:14 talks about the purpose. There was a reason God separated them. And once his purpose had been established, he brought them back, because the promise is not immediate rescue from hardship or suffering. The purpose is that God has a plan for our lives in the midst of and regardless of our current situation. And that's where we miss it, because we forget he's our help in the time of trouble, not our help from the time of trouble. Trouble's going to come. Even Jesus said, listen, you're going to have problems, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. And in those troubling times, that's when we forget God's going to do a gathering. Our lives may have to be separated, sorted out, so that we can see what we've got going on. Have you ever emptied out your pocketbook, emptied out your briefcase, and you realize there were things that you thought you lost and had misplaced, but they just got shuffled under all of the whatever it is that was in your briefcase, or in your, if you're a purse, if you're a purse carrier, and then you find out, oh my God, I've been looking for this thing all along. I can't believe it's been up under here. So we have to understand that in this rational society we live in, because when trouble comes in our lives, we become very rational. We're a rational society. We want to figure it out. Who's to blame? Who's going to fix it? Who's going to pay for it? How am I going to be compensated? Where's my recompense? And I want this fixed for me right now. And the problem with rationality is that rationality is seen as the enemy of faith. by interfering with our beliefs. See, rationality sees faith as pernicious. Rationality sees faith as a subtle, harmful effect because it interferes with our ability to think. It doesn't make sense to us. And when it doesn't make sense to us, that's when we want to fight because this doesn't make any sense. This is ridiculous. I don't understand. And Paul advises the church in Philippi that, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty, but I've learned the secret of being content. I've learned the secret of being content, whether I'm well fed or I'm hungry, whether I'm living in plenty or I'm living in want. What I've learned is I can do all of this through him who gives me strength. And that's a scripture we love to quote a lot. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And we say that when we want to be successful in something, or if we have a lot of things on our agenda, we got to get done. I can do a lot of things because Christ gives me strength. But what the word of the Lord is letting us know is whatever situation we are in, when we are weak, God's strength kicks in because it's not according to our feelings. It's God's empowerment that empowers us when he gathers us and he gets us all together. Like when we pick up those jacks and he does it with one hand. The hand of the Lord, my God, the hand of the Lord is a powerful tool in our lives. And he can scoop us up in one hand and get us all together. Proverbs 3:5 lets us know that we have to trust in the Lord with all our hearts and lean not to our own understanding because rationality get us jacked up. Rationality will mess us up trying to make it make sense according to the algorithm of life we have configured in our imagination. It's not our world. It's God's world. And he controls. He handles. He supervises. And we've got to trust him in those situations and not allow the rationality of our flesh to interfere with the divine intentionality of our faith for God's plan for our life. So when you find yourself in a tough situation and it seems like you've been scattered all over the place, I'm encouraging you to take another look on today. Take another look because when you can't change what you're looking at, I think we need to change the way we're looking at it and let God gather us so we can see it the way he does. Well, my time is up, and it's always been my pleasure to spend this time with you. I'm Dr. Rhonda Ross saying, I hope you have a gathered up day today and that God puts all your pieces back together. Until next Tuesday, always remember in life, take another look, y'all. See you next week.